There are some games where it's genuinely a mystery as to how the final score was what it was. And this game was a prime example of that, when Arizona defeated Kansas State in a non-conference game, even though both teams are members of the Big 12. Arizona had 21 first downs compared to 8 for Kansas State. Arizona had 412 yards of offense compared to 193 for Kansas State. If you take out all the yards picked up by wide receiver Jace Brown, Kansas State had just 50 yards of offense. That's it. How this was a one-score game with Kansas State touching the ball last with a chance to march down the field and win it is beyond me, because this game was a mess in every sense of the word. And that includes on the coaching side, because holy cow, we need to talk about Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman. Here's the situation for Kansas State. It's third down with 29 seconds left, and Arizona's got the ball at your 44-yard line. Get a stop here, and it remains a 17-3 game going into the halftime break. And after a quarterback draw, which was 100% a quarterback draw, seeing as you saw receivers blocking down the field, gets back to the line of scrimmage, and that's it, Arizona is faced with 4th and long. Good job, Kansas State. You got to stop. Now, you need to call a timeout so that Arizona doesn't think about lining up for a long field goal risk-free. And if they do line up for one after you call a timeout, you can get it back with time to go down the field yourself. So they're not going to dare kick the field goal because of the field position battle and the low chance it works out compared to the high risk of what happens if it doesn't. And they're not calling a timeout, are they? Nope. Genius, K-State. Absolutely genius. Just let them line up for the field goal risk-free. I'm sure this won't backfire on you in any way whatsoever.
Wagner will put it down. He spins it around. Salgado Medina on the way, and it's sliced on him. It's no good.
I mean, he had the leg. It didn't backfire, but my God, welcome to dumb decisions nonetheless. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something that look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something that look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of a college head coach. And for this one, we're to take a look at the mind of Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman. I think it's safe to say at this point in the season that there has been no team more disappointing than Kansas State. Yes, there are teams worse than the Wildcats, and teams like UCLA are putrid to the point of being unwatchable. But did anyone see this coming at the start of the season? Like, at all? This was a team that started off ranked in the preseason AP Top 25, and they haven't even beaten an FBS opponent yet. They lost to Army, a team that lost to an FCS school themselves the week prior. They were trailing against North Dakota with under a minute left and survived an FCS guarantee game by the skin of their teeth. They're 1-3, and it's not like things get any easier for them going forward. This team is a mess in so many ways, from the lack of discipline to the atrocious offensive display at quarterback with Avery Johnson, to the injury to Dylan Edwards, to the coaching. Just about nothing has gone right for K-State. And coaching and in-game management like this is exactly why Kansas State is in the hole that they're in. No, this play didn't end up mattering in the end. Whether or not Kansas State was smart or not, and whether or not they used the timeout appropriately, it still would have been a 17-3 game at the half. But that doesn't excuse how dumb this was. The fact that Kansas State was even in the game until the very end, considering how poorly they played and how they looked, is a minor miracle. And this awful decision, not technically biting them in the butt, is a prime example of that. So with that being said, let's take a look at why not calling a timeout right away after getting a third down stop at the 44-yard line is a really bad idea. And before I do that, I was live streaming this game on my main channel, Jaguar Gator 9, where I stream just about every single college football game. And I want to show you my reaction in real time as this was taking place, so you know, without any shadow of a doubt, that this isn't hindsight bias, and so that you can see what exactly I was going through while this was taking place. Take a gander at this. Back in motion. They're going to send 5. Noah stepping up. And we brought down the 43. K-State should call timeout here. K-State should call. They're not.
I don't know why you wouldn't, because now Arizona... Why would you not call timeout here if you're Kansas State? Because now Arizona can go for it here with no punishment. And they kick the field goal here with no punishment. What? Why would you do this? And Arizona calls timeout with 1. Bench of the half? I don't know. What? I don't get why K-State didn't call timeout. I don't get why Kansas State didn't call timeout on that one. Why would you not call timeout if you're K-State? Because now Arizona can throw a Hail Mary risk-free. They can try a field goal risk-free. Like, call the timeout with 22 seconds. And Arizona's not kicking a field goal. They're probably punting it away. You don't have to do anything. But you might as well prevent giving Arizona a chance to get points. I'm just confused by that. Call it with, like, 22, or even like 15, because now you're going to try this field goal here with MSM. There's no risk. Obviously, if you call the timeout with 20 seconds, they're not trying the field goal, because if you miss, K-State's got time for 2 plays, and they get the field goal range themselves. But now there's no risk here. It's a 60-yard kick, and there's no risk whatsoever to try this field goal. 62 yards for MSM.
Obviously, you have 2 options here. Call the timeout quickly, or don't call it at all. Any smart coach would have called the timeout right away, and there are reasons for that. Arizona has the ball in a 4th and long spot near midfield. They're not going for it there, and they're not going to kick the field goal there if there are 20 seconds left on the clock. The reason? It's way too high risk. It'd be different if we're talking about 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. I'd completely understand the logic in not calling timeout there, because they could go for it, get it, and then make it a closer field goal. But on 4th and 9, if Arizona goes for it, the odds are in your favor that you get a stop. If Arizona kicks a field goal from 62 yards out, which is hard by NFL standards, let alone college standards, the odds are in your favor that it's going to miss. And because of this, if they decide that they want to be aggressive and score points, if it doesn't work out, you're getting the ball back with great field position, with time available to go down the field yourself, and with timeouts available at your disposal just in case you need them. If you force a stop, you have time to call 2 plays before trying a field goal yourself, and you only need to get about 15 yards to get into range. By calling a timeout early, you force Arizona into a spot where they can't go for it and go for points. And if they decide that they want to do that for some reason, you can take advantage of that and get points yourself. In all likelihood, on 4th and 9 in that spot, what's Arizona going to do if you call a timeout? They're going to punt the ball away. They'll end the drive with no points. They won't try to extend their lead due to the high-risk nature of what happens if you do that, considering how far you have to go to get the first and where you are on the field, and you'll go into the half with the score being 17-3. I'm not saying if you're Kansas State that you call plays if Arizona punts it and you're starting inside your own 20 with not a lot of time left on the clock. I'm more than fine, considering how poor the offense looked in the first half, with getting the ball back off a punt and taking a knee. So this dumb decision isn't necessarily about what Kansas State could potentially do on offense if they had a couple of seconds and got the ball deep in their own territory. But knowing the situation, Arizona is up by 2 possessions. A field goal on this drive makes it a 3-score game. A punt keeps it at a 2-score game. The difference between a 2-score game and a 3-score game is huge. The difference between a 14-point game and a 17-point game is gigantic. If you call the timeout early, Arizona can't make it a 3-score game. And if they want to chance that and try it for some reason, playing the super low odds, you can get points yourself. So there is no risk whatsoever to taking a timeout in this spot. However, let's say you don't take a timeout. Let's say you decide, like Kansas State coach Chris Kleiman, as in the man been watching this whole time, to be really stupid, save the timeouts for some reason, keep them in your back pocket, and do nothing as the clock slowly ticks down. Now, there's 2 seconds left in the half, and it's 4th down. So what will Arizona not be doing here? That's right, they're not going to be punting the ball back to you, because there's no reason to. Why punt it back and risk a return, or a block, or a muff snap if you can't get points, and if you don't have to? So they're going to try the field goal. By not calling a timeout right away, you just gave Arizona a chance at points for no reason whatsoever. Why would Arizona not kick a field goal with 20 seconds left in the half from 62 yards out? They wouldn't do it because the kick is a low percentage kick that if you miss, gives Kansas State the ball with good field position and time on the clock. But with 2 seconds left, thanks to not calling the timeout, who cares if it's a low percentage kick? If your kicker can reach from 62, and clearly he can, then there's no risk to kicking it here. If you make it, you've got 3 points, you make it a 3-score game, and you've got all the momentum in the world on your side. If you miss it, so what? Kansas State doesn't get the ball back. The field position is irrelevant because the clock is at triple zeros. So the worst case for Arizona, by kicking a 62-yarder with no time left on the clock, is that you're in the same exact spot you're currently in. And when you put it like that, why wouldn't you take a timeout in that spot early on if you're Kansas State? The best case scenario if you take a timeout early, knowing that Arizona will punt the ball away and won't try the 62-yard field goal, is the exact same as the worst case scenario, which is that the score is 17-3 at the half. If you don't take the timeout, the best case scenario is that the score will be 17-3 at the half. But the worst case scenario, since there is all of the incentive possible to kick the field goal with none of the risk, is that you're down 20-3 and you're down by 3 scores. That's a pretty big difference if you ask me. If you have 2 options, and in both of them, the best case scenario is exactly the same, but in one of them, the worst case scenario is significantly worse than the other, then you should take the option that does not have the worst of the worst case scenarios. No one asked Kleiman about it in the post-game press conference afterwards, which I get, seeing as the decision didn't matter at the end of the day and led to the same result. And there were a ton, and I truly mean a ton of other problems that the media needed to talk about with Kansas State regarding their inept offense, their slow start to the season, the play of Avery Johnson at quarterback, the defense, the whole 9 yards. You get the idea. But this just summed up Kansas State's starts of the season. An unwatchable, incomprehensible disaster that seems to get worse with each passing minute. Kleiman's decision not to take a timeout right away directly led to Arizona having a chance to score 3 more points at a time when points were at a premium, and directly led to Arizona having a darn good chance to go up 3 scores, which, based on your offensive play, would have been an insurmountable deficit. And for that, alongside some other things, his seat should be getting awfully warm right about now. This felt like the game and the turning point of the Chris Kleiman era, where the tide began to shift in a negative direction. And with decisions like this, it's not hard to see why. So what do we learn from all of this? If you can guarantee the fact that the other team will not score points in a possession, and it comes at no risk or harm to you whatsoever, then do it. If you can guarantee the fact that the other team will give you the ball back and will not score, even if you decide not to act on it, then do it. If you have 2 options with the same best case scenario of allowing no points, but vastly different worst case scenarios, then take the option that gives you the best worst case scenario. And if you have your timeouts with you going into the halftime break, you need to know that you cannot exchange them for timeouts in the second half, or have them carry over, or use them for future reference. Not saying you should always burn all 3 of your timeouts, but if there's a situation that calls for a timeout, then you should use it, because you either use it or you lose it. And Kleiman not only lost his timeouts that he saved, but lost the game and possibly his season. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live, and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.